Today we're looking at the switch function in Microsoft Excel. The switch function allows you to replace complex nested if statements with a single switch formula. So let's go ahead and open our switch function. And then you can see our arguments or parameters below. And so we start with an expression, and then it's followed by pairs of values and results. And so the quickest way to show this is, for example, if we take this kitchen in the cell next to this, and then that will be our expression. And so then what we can do is put in kitchen, and that will be our value that we compare to. So if D4 is equal to kitchen, then we will do 10%. And then we can continue on, and so we can do our next comparison is apparel. And if it's apparel, then we do 15%. And then finally, if it's office, we can do 5%. And then if we want a default value, that will be the final one. And so if you notice, we start with our expression or our comparative in the first one, and then it's followed by pairs. And so we have a value, result, value, result, value, result. And then we can conclude with a default. And so our last parameter is if it cannot find a match between kitchen, apparel, and office to our D4, then it's going to return NA. And so if you look in our data set here, we have different categories: kitchen, apparel, office. We have one outdoor. And so outdoor is not in our list of potential values. And so if we drag our formula down, we can see that it returns the appropriate discount amount. So this one, the formula changed to D5 inside of our switch function. And so that is apparel, so 15, office is 5, and then outdoor is NA. And so this automatically takes care of our error handling. If it does not find an option, it will return NA. So next we have a scores and grades. If we want to convert a numeric score into a letter grade, we have a little table here to help us give us a reference point. And so basically we want to take each one of these values and turn it into a grade. And so we can do this simply using a switch function. And so what we're going to do in this one, instead of using our 92 as our expression or our input, we're actually going to do true. And the reason why is for our value 1, let's take our D17, which contains 92, and we're actually going to compare that greater than or equals to 90. And so what we're going to do with this then is that's going to be A. And so instead of using text and comparing text, we're going to take true. And then if this equals to true, then it's going to return A. And then we continue with the rest of our conditions. So we can do D17 greater than or equals to 80. And one thing to note is I am doing this in order. If I started with greater than or equals to 60, it would automatically go to D. And so if you have conditions that may overlap, and so in this one, I'm specifying as greater than 90, but this one I'm not specifying that's less than 90. And so just make sure when you're ordering these statements, which finds the first true result and returns that regardless of what else may evaluate. So just make sure you have the correct order there. So let's go ahead and finish this up. Greater than equals to 70. I missed the condition result here. So B, and then this one will be C, and then finally D17 greater than 60. Be D, and then otherwise we'll return F as our default if it cannot find that score. So this returns as A, which is correct. And let's drag this down. And here you can see A, B, C, D, and this one's F. The one thing here is that 60 is an F, and that's because if we go here, I did greater than 60 instead of greater than equals to. So we fix that down. Like I said, it turns to a D. And so it is important to validate your formulas before you run on to make sure that it returns the correct result. So next, let's take a look at a similar one, but we're going to return some text instead. So we're going to use that switch function again. And this time we're going to do true again. And then we're going to take this cell. And then if it's less than or equals to 500, we're going to do send alert. And actually what we can do in this case is we can reference this And then we could do D30 less than or equals to 1,000. And we could check this one. And then finally, we do D30 less than or greater than 1,000. And we could do this one. Now, one thing to note is if we drag this down, this D30, which is referring to the sales column, will increment by 1, but this one will also increment by 1. And so what we want to do in this one is add these dollar signs. What these dollar signs do is prevent this from updating as we scroll down. And then we can add our NA condition at the end. And there we go. So send alert. Let's go ahead and drag this down. So it's less than 500, send alert, less than 1,000, 10% discount. So that's correct. And then over 1,000, 20% promotion. So another thing we can do in this as well. So let's go ahead and just change this to 500, 1,000, and 1,000. And so we're going to assume less than or equals to, and greater than. But we're going to actually build that into this formula. So instead of this 500 staying here, let's go ahead and do H30 and lock this. Then we're going to change this to H31 and use our dollar signs to lock that to prevent that from shifting. And then here we'll do H32. So what this allows us to do, if we drag this down, as you can see, we still have the correct results, but now we don't have any of that math or those numbers in here. It's happening outside. So that dollar amount is actually here. So we could change this to 250. And you can see now this 450 changed to 10% discount because now it's between 250 and 1,000. Or we could change this to 800. And you can see all those that were originally 10% discount now are send alert. So this is a great way to use values in the cells to be able to set those conditions. Another thing to keep in mind is you can make these more complex as well. You can reference other formulas as part of these expressions or values, as well as the results. And so you can also use this to kind of nest different results there as well. And so you can use other formulas or functions inside of Switch, as well as nesting Switch inside of another function to help streamline your workflow. If you do not have Coefficient installed, make sure to install Coefficient as it allows you to automate the import and export of data from various systems, such as Salesforce or SQL, and it will allow you to keep your Switch formulas updated with the latest data. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.